All right, all right, all right. Happy New Year. It's coming up. It's not yet here, but it is coming up. And I'm feeling very festive because my main man, my guy, Justin Stevens at JustinFF_ has got the whole room decorated for you, the viewers at home, so you can get into the Happy New Year festive mood along with us. And Justin, how are we doing this evening, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. This is New Year's week, so a nice little break if you're a school teacher like myself between Christmas and New Year's, and the family always does homemade pizzas on New Year's Eve. We stay up and watch the ball drop, and we have a lot of fun, family fun with board games and stuff. So definitely looking forward to it. Another holiday. We love our holidays here in the Stevens household.
Man, so down in Indiana, you guys are making pizza. What is your go-to put on the pizza?
And whatever is out there.
So you're not like, hey, I'm excited this year. I want to put such and such. You're more like, oh, that looks good. Let me try it.
Yeah, I'm not a super picky eater anyway, but when it comes to these homemade pizzas, it doesn't really matter what's on there. It's going to be delicious.
So I went through a phase before I got sick. Some of you know my story. I have ulcerative colitis. Right now, I don't because I had some surgeries, but I was in bad shape, and I don't eat gluten because I learned it affects my body in a negative way. But before that was the case, I ate plenty of pizza. And we used to make pizzas, and I would make them on like a big baking tray. So I'd make them rectangular. And what I like to put on my pizza is sliced jalapeno and prosciutto. So like a ham, and then a
Yeah.
little bit. I'd chop up onion and put it on there. So some jalapeno, some prosciutto, and some onion. So that's my recommendation. If there's anybody from the Stevens family who is a little different than Justin and likes to spice it up a little bit, I suggest you give that a try.
There you go. There you go. And
Yeah.
the kids know all they have to do is send me the list. I'm going shopping on Friday.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, there it is. So he'll so whatever's there, says the guy who gets whatever's there.
Well, yeah, that's true. There will be a lot of stuff there.
This guy acting like he's surprised about what's at the table when he brings everything to the table. This is getting deeper and deeper. But anyway, this is episode number 159. We are one away from 160. This is week 17 of the NFL season, and this is likely fantasy football championship weekend for all of you. And Justin, you talked briefly about, it's a week off. You're a teacher. My kids are off from school. I'm obviously working. And my son got Madden 23 from Santa Claus this year. And we were kind of talking before the show. We started, so he's really into Ultimate Team. So we would play Ultimate Team together, Madden 22. We got Madden 23. Since Christmas, we haven't been able to connect to the server. So there's something going on with Madden, so we can't play Ultimate Team. So we started a franchise, and we're playing together. And we hand the sticks back and forth. And like I said, before the show, sometimes I get a little greedy, and I take more than one possession. I gain some momentum, and I hold on to the sticks. But I was telling him we had a tough outing out the gate against the Buccaneers. We ended up pulling it off thanks to me and Kavante Turpin having a huge kick return at the end of the game, and we're 8-0 right now. So we're not yet at playoff season. The real world. We're getting close to playoff season, but me and Emmett, we're undefeated, man. So we'll probably be talking about that next episode. Hopefully we'll be in the ship. But Justin, how many teams do you have in the fantasy football championship this week?
Yeah, so I think last week I figured it up. I had 12 lineup setting leagues altogether. There were probably 3 or 4 teams where it was kind of like a rebuild type of thing. I do still have some dynasty leagues, nothing with IDP or anything, but I do have a few dynasty leagues left, and I'm probably looking to cut out some of those again this year. But I'll be talking about that later on in the show. but I had it down to where I made it in the playoffs in 5 different leagues. Scott Fishbowl I got put out before most fantasy playoffs even started. This week, I had 4 teams in the semifinals, so 4 leagues I was still alive in the final 4, and I won all 4 of them. I don't know how that happened. I tried to
That's huge. That's an awesome weekend right there.
Oh, it was, and I hate to blow all of my luck on one week though, so I'm hoping that I've got a little bit of luck left for this championship push. But
you can't look at it like that, man. Every weekend is different.
No. Mathematically, I look at it as I just really increased my odds of
There you
winning
go. There you
more
go.
ships. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying I also understand that lucky is involved in fantasy football. So I
Right.
mean, there's an aspect to it. But yeah, so 4 semifinals and now 4 finals. And I try to diversify my teams a lot too. So it's not like I had the same set of players across the board that were all, just blew up and helped give me that push, because it really wasn't. It's like multiple different players at multiple different levels. So some teams I'm really good at the quarterback wide receiver spot. Some are more of a running back and tight end help me out. So yeah, so it's really worked out well for me so far this season, and we'll see how happy I am next week.
Excellent. Excellent. I played in 8 leagues. I made the playoffs in all 8. I was out of the first round, I want to say in 2. And then now I lost. So essentially I moved on in 3. So I'm in 3 championships, and I was in 5. So I guess I lost in 3 because I was in 5 playoffs this week, and one of them being Scott Fishbowl, and I came in 300 something, and I'm out because it's top 50. Yeah, but
That's a good finish.
one year I came in 49th.
Yeah,
But that was like 2 or 3 years ago, so I think, it wasn't 3,000 people. So, but like being in 300th, how many people are in? I feel like that's like
right.
top 10% or top 15%, whatever. But
Definitely, yes.
then I'm in a Devi league that I won back-to-back championships, and I lost. Austin Eckler killed me, dude. I lost 180.9 to 180.74. So
Mm.
it was very close, but I won like I've been very lucky, and I'm grateful for the luck I've had over the last few seasons. Excuse me. I had to sneeze. I didn't want to do that on air. I need like some like on air shows have like a cough button.
Uh-huh.
I need to get one of those so I can mute myself. But I've done really well over the last few years, and there is a lot of luck involved. So I have gotten very lucky. So I am grateful for the luck I've had. So I'm not completely losing my mind over losing by 0.16. I won this league 2 years in a row. I think it's good for the league. I think if a few other teams step up. One league that I didn't even think my team was all that great, and that's Too Legit, which you used to be in. I'm playing our boy Shane in the championship, and
Ooh.
Shane's team is loaded, dude. Shane came into this league and just stocked draft picks, and he's been able to just continually stock draft picks. And Shane's squad, let's look at his roster. He knows his stuff. So he stocked all these draft picks, and he's a Devy guy. He's a draft guy. He's got Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. He's not too strong at running back. I mean, Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders. So there's strength with Jacobs, but I honestly I think Jacobs is cooling down a little bit. He's got over 300 touches for the first time in his career, so I'm not too keen on him this week. And Jonathan Taylor, who's on the IR, he's got Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, who he drafted. So he's got a very strong squad. My squad's okay. I might be able to hang with him, but again, this is the one team that I thought would be out like prior to the playoffs, and somehow I managed. And in fictional, I'm in like 4th place, so I'm counting myself out in that one. But I have a few shots in some other leagues, and one of them is a league I have on Sleeper. So it's fun to be in it, man. It's definitely fun to be in it. You got to be in it to win it, and that kind of segues, which I didn't plan on doing this, but I'm going to do it now anyway. So we do a playoff league. And is this our 3rd year of doing the Toilets
Yes.
and Titles playoff league?
Yep. Third year.
So this is year 3. It is $15, okay? And $3 of every entry fee goes towards, helping support the Toilets and Titles podcast network, goes towards StreamYard, Podbean. We don't do that. And we try to do something like that once a year. And all the other giveaways we've done, it all goes to either what we're giving away or it goes to the winner. And this is, this year we're going to have 15 enter, 12 goes towards the pot, 3 goes towards running the podcast network. And the way it works as well is you can only start one player. You can only start a player once through the entirety of the playoffs. So once you've started a player, you can't start him again. But also, if you don't start a player, if you don't pick a player and his team loses, you can never play him. So you have to be selective about who you play. And it's 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, kicker, defensive lineman, a linebacker, and a defensive back. So it's pretty much PPR standard scoring, but I added bonuses for 40 plus yard catch, 40 plus yard run, 50 plus yard pass. And then for defense, I added bonuses. If a linebacker or a DB gets a sack, he gets a little extra. And if a defensive lineman bats away a ball or gets an interception, then he gets some extra points. So this is something you want to get in. It's on my fantasy league, and payment is through League Set. Go ahead, Justin.
Do we know if Taysom Hill is going to be eligible as a defensive back in any of these?
I mean, that guy's a Swiss Army knife, and I know a guy who can funk around with my fantasy league a little bit, might be able to switch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's Shane Hallam.
Yeah. And then I see Glows in here. Glows, it's nice to see you, man. Hope everything is good. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I see Nate in here. I'm guessing Fry's in here. We got Facebook user, and that's usually Kevin Fry when he comes in on Facebook. He asks if we're gambling. And yes, we gamble sometimes. But anyway, if you would like to get into the Toilets to Titles Playoff League, reach out to me on the Twitter at Coach Sheps, or you can email us toiletstotitles@gmail.com. I believe that is correct. And all you have to do is give us your email address, which will be there. If you email us, I'll send you the My Fantasy League invite. I'll send you the invite for payment. So that's the Toilets to Titles Playoff League. Justin, why don't you tell everybody about what we did for the St. Jude's Children's Hospital this Christmas season?
Oh yeah, okay, cool. So I kind of thought that you would want to do that one because this was kind of like your brainchild here. So
I felt like I was talking too much, so I needed to pass it.
You're good. So we actually want to thank Coach for coming up with this amazing idea. But essentially, it was a very simple idea that turned into a nice donation for a good cause. So Coach had stated that he would donate $2 for every subscriber that we got between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And fortunately, we got a lot of subscribers from that. We were able to put together, I believe that would be 27 new followers since Thanksgiving. That's a $54 donation. But Coach didn't think that was good enough. Just as much as he likes to act like he's greedy for taking extra drives in Madden from his son, he's actually not all that greedy. He's a pretty generous fella, and he decided to bump that up to $100. We also had a few guys on the team that, or at least two that I know of, that matched that donation. Did we have three?
I know it was two. I know it was Rich and Jason, I believe.
Yeah, so that's $300 toward the St. Jude Children's Hospital, and had we only gotten to a certain number, maybe you still bump that up to $100. But the fact that it was some kind of an interaction with the subscribers that kind of helped motivate us to continue to push it, to help us reach that ultimate goal of 1,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for subscribing. We hope that you stick with us. We hope that you continue to watch what we have and continue to comment down in that comment section, even if we're not live, to give us any kind of suggestions on things that we might want to do for the show moving forward. This is a pivotal time frame for fantasy football content producers like ourselves. So if there's some content in this off season that you want to see, because now, fantasy football, your wheels are turning in a different direction than regular NFL football fans. Regular NFL football fans are looking forward to the playoffs. Fantasy football players are looking forward to the off season. Guys like Coach Sheps here himself. So let us know if there's anything as new subscribers that you would like to see this off season. We'll let you know where those shows, where that material can be found and on what shows they can be found at. But we also might even throw that into some other shows that are already going if it's something that we think could really help the brand.
Oh yeah, and I mean the off season, we don't stop. So hopefully you stick and you stay. You get here, you like what we have to say, and if you don't like what me and Justin have to say, we have like 7 other shows on the network, and there's a good chance you'll like something somebody has to say. And it's funny, like lately, like if there's a show I like, and this happened with Schitt's Creek. When Schitt's Creek ended, I felt like I lost friends.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I was sad that, like, because I felt like I was in the room with those folks, So
right.
We're not going anywhere. The season's ending. We'll be your friends this off season. We'll help. We'll hold your hand throughout the off season when things get tough, and we'll be here, man. We will be here, and we're looking forward to that. So stick and stay. If you're watching on the YouTube, hit the like button, throw us a comment, throw us a subscription. We would appreciate it. We're really trying to get to 1,000. We were thinking we would get there in season, but we got a little greedy. Maybe I think we're right where we need to be. 850. Maybe we push the 900 by the end of the season, but we're doing well. And throw us an Apple Podcast 5-star review. If you want to get in the Frankenstank Listener League, which Justin's going to talk about the Frankenstank playoffs shortly. And in a few weeks, we're going to get the winner on, and we're going to recap Frankenstank. So this will be something you want to see, especially if you're new. So, if you want to get in that, throw us a 5-star review. It's guaranteed you'll get in. If you want to get in for free, which is $25 value, throw us like a 5-star Apple review that, like, it's phenomenal. Like, it make anybody want to listen to the show. If you can do something like that, you're going to get in for $25. And shout out to your sister Amanda, who's in the chat. We did squares for Christmas Eve. We did, I want to say $10, and we paid every single score change. So my head was spinning during that game because there were a lot of score changes. And she hit big. She was the final winner, and I believe she won for the Super Bowl squares as well. So, Justin, you need to make sure Amanda's watching the games with you this weekend if you want your 4 teams to win a championship.
Well, here's the thing. She did win the Super Bowl squares as well, so she's really raked in from Toilets to Titles. But she's also been a very avid Patreon supporter of ours from the beginning. Since we started the Patreon, I think she was like our 3rd Patreon supporter. So definitely well deserved. We're glad to see Patreons getting back what they're giving in. So we definitely appreciate her on that front. And also Uncle Steve, been a Patreon. I think he was our 1st or 2nd Patreon. Him and Rich were kind of like neck and neck there that same day. So I don't like to give either of them the number 1 credit. I like to give it to both of them. But since we're talking about the Patreon, I'll go ahead and throw that out there. We got patreon.com/Toilets to Titles. You've got all the different levels of the Patreon here, from $3 all the way up to the $20 one-on-one roster analysis and 30-minute breakdown of your league. So all the different levels are there. Just like Coach was saying, there's different levels that provide different things. But the reason I got back on the Patreon again is because of this comment right here, where Uncle Steve is talking about our main home league. The infamous Uncle Steve. You like to call him Funkle Steve.
Yeah, he's the fun uncle.
He is the fun uncle. I'm not going to deny that. He's always been the fun uncle, that's for sure. But unfortunately, he and I have to go head to head in the main home league championship, and we have this thing called the Champions League for our home league. And essentially, what we're doing is, if you win the championship or if you get the number 1 overall seed, then you get an entry into the Champions League. Now, if both of those have already been entered into it, we will give a 2nd place entry that way, like 2nd place in the overall tournament, just to try to help get us to 8 sooner. We currently have 7 because my son Peyton was the number 1 seed this year, so he was able to get into the Champions League at 7. So since we have a new qualifier, we can't take a 2nd place qualifier as an entry. That means Uncle Steve has to beat me this week to get into the Champions League. I've already been qualified. I'm already in the Champions League, but I'm also 2nd place in overall champions in this league, and I have to catch up to my brother-in-law, Sam. So, unfortunately, I can't just give this to Uncle Steve. As much as I would love to give it to him, he's going to have to earn this. All right. So I think it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a good game. I'm not giving any predictions on it because Uncle Steve is super suspicious with this sort of stuff, and I don't want him to get pissed at me. I just hope we have a good, fun game, and I hope the best team wins.
Uncle Steve beat me in Frankenstank. My team was absolutely loaded, so good luck to you because Uncle Steve's rolling this year, and yeah, he's Frankenstank. He had a loss this week, so why don't you recap Frankenstank? Why don't we get into that? The playoffs, or we have a championship coming up. We're going to name the monster of the year. So go ahead and recap the Frankenstank playoffs to this point.
Yeah, so it was actually a monster of a Fearsome 4 matchups as well, because both of these matchups came down to the Monday Night Football game between the Colts and the Chargers. When the dust had settled and before the competitors even had an opportunity to lick their wounds, it was determined that the number 1 seed, the demonic infusion, Joshua at Fusion FFB, was taken down by Dracula at Cruiser 128. What was thought on paper to be a huge advantage at the wide receiver position turned out to be Joshua's Achilles heel in the end. Mum-Ra St. Brown at Is This Just FF? And Mephistopheles, the infamous Uncle Steve that we've been talking about, came right down to the last drive of Monday night. And had the Colts chosen to lean more on Zach Moss on that last drive, Steve likely would have won. Instead, they rolled with Deion Jackson, and Mumra gets the win. This sets up a ninth seed Dracula to face the eighth seed Mumra St. Brown in the finals.
And Chris Hind is this Just FF.
Yes.
He's a Patreon.
Yes.
So we're rooting for the Patreon member in this one. And I'm looking at the Patreon list right now. A lot of patrons won the squares. I think Rick Beachy won it like 3 times, man.
Yeah, and then he's the one that wanted that setup too, isn't he?
Yeah. He must be really lucky too. And Nino bought 8 squares and he gave them out to just other content creators. And one of the squares he gave out. So 2 of the squares he gave out hit, but one of them hit 3 times.
Wow.
So we had a few multiple winners. So yeah, man. So get in the Patreon and your luck will increase when playing in the Toilets to Titles games. That's what we should call this.
It's our way of thanking the subscribers.
Yeah.
The Patreon support.
I see Lori in here. Lori, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We had a great one. I hope you had a great one as well. I hope you have a happy New Year's. I know you guys are gonna have a good time. I hope Justin makes some good pizza so you all can really.
We all make our own so that nobody can complain.
You don't share?
No, we all make our own pizza. Like we all have our own huge pizza that we eat on for like a week.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable. This sounds very enjoyable. Well, all right. You know what I've been eating on for the past few weeks? My brain has been munching on trying to digest this season and trying to come up with what we're going to do in the off season. And I know it's not super complex and super complicated because we've been doing this for a few years now. And I outlined the off season like year 1. Like full on outline every single week, content we could discuss, themes for each month. So I have the off season pretty much mapped out, but I wanted to get into what Toilets to Titles would be doing this off season, how we'd evolve, how the shows would evolve, what this show is going to be like. We're already working on, we have a mock draft, our 3rd mock draft of the year coming out next Thursday. That's going to be at 8:30 p.m. I'm working on our first Dynasty startup mock of the year, which is probably going to be, a week or 2 after the season because we got to recap Frankenstein. But other than that, we got tons of other stuff we're going to be bringing to you this off season. And some of the dates and times might change. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that and trying to make it best work for the content creators, at the Toilets to Titles Network. But also I want to put it in a way that y'all can find it, easily and digest it when it comes to you. And it's not as time sensitive as in season. Like we got to get our stuff out Tuesdays, right? We got to, and then the Patreon exclusive episode, we got to get that out Monday. So everything's time sensitive. The off season isn't as time sensitive. So I think we can be a little more thorough with things because we're not as under the gun. So I'm looking forward to it. So clearly we're going to have weekly Toilets to Titles episodes. Again, we might change the date and the time. We're going to have draft content. I know head-to-head still going to be going. They're going to be doing a lot of IDP mocks, rookie mocks, dynasty mocks. Then we're going to have head-to-head still going to be going on. I know Joe Knows and Joe Arachi dropped the leash from Dash of DFS. They're going to be doing some Giants content. I'm sure me and Campy will be doing some Cowboys content. We'll have our off-season breakdowns with Justin and George Reed are going to be running those. Fun Day draft shows. Do we have anything in the tank? Like anything you're stewing on? Any little teasers for what might be the first topic for a Fun Day draft show this offseason?
Yeah. So we had talked about before the season started potentially doing one of WWE or WWF, just professional wrestling in general, and it wouldn't be as simple as your favorite wrestlers. We're going to really break it down, and we're going to do your favorite intro music, your favorite tag team, your favorite event, your favorite venue, also your favorite wrestler, or whatever the case is. There's going to be like 8 different categories that you have to draft, and you can draft them in whatever order you want. But we'll have to change the rules up as far as like stealing and swapping and the wheel of misfortune or the wheel of death, whatever we call that.
I have an idea.
What's that?
All right. So you know how in wrestling, the best part of wrestling is when there's a match and all of a sudden you hear somebody's entrance music and they just come running down.
Yeah.
What if there is no wheel during the wrestling draft? Like there is a wheel, but no one can opt to use the wheel. Like someone can be up, and all of a sudden, as they're getting ready to pick, you just play an entrance music, and they have to spin the wheel.
I like that.
Uh-huh. I think that would be fun.
I'm writing it down right now.
I want to see it. You know what I mean? Like, so they'll be interrupted. Like when the glass shatters, when Stone Cold Steve Austin. Man, I watched a whole bunch of wrestling when I was a kid, probably more so than any 10, 11, 12-year-old wrestler should watch.
I'm going to be at a huge
Wrestler, kid, I
disadvantage
mean.
in this one
You are?
because I did not. I was into wrestling for like 2 or 3 years. Like that was it. And I mean, I was really big in it for that 2 or 3 years. My aunt took me to WrestleMania in Indianapolis, and I
Dude.
got the Hulk shirt, and I ripped it off
Yeah.
whenever the Ultimate Warrior came running out, and he had like his 6 second match that was
Okay.
just he hopped in real quick, boom, it was over, and he sprinted out as fast as he sprinted
All
in.
right.
Like I think it was at that time it was the record for the fastest match ever. Maybe still has it, I don't know. But those sort of things, like I was really into it for that 2 or 3 years, and then after that, it's just I was old enough to start watching football, and it was all just football after
See,
that.
I liked it all. I love the wrestling video game. So I was probably in kindergarten, maybe like probably kindergarten, because it was when we moved when I was in first grade from New Jersey to New York. And when I was living in Jersey, I remember I had a WrestleMania on VHS, and I would watch it. And I remember Jake the Snake. And so I would watch that on VHS. And then as I got older, I just like The Rock, Stone Cold, just Degeneration X, and then WCW had like Hulk Hogan went there, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, Sting. I loved it, and then I loved all the video games, and I also growing up, I had the wrestling ring. I had all the wrestlers. Like I would set up matches in my bedroom. I had the jumbotron, and eventually they had this technology where I'm sure they have it like tenfold now, but they had like like pieces on their feet. You could put them on the
Oh
jumbotron,
yeah,
and their entry music would play, man. And tables, ladders, and chairs matches. My buddies would come over for pay-per-view. We'd order pizza, Domino's, soda, and just watch like all these. Dude, I was watching when Owen Hart died. Like when he fell, like he was supposed to rappel from the ceiling. I was watching that pay-per-view, and that was pretty like,
wow,
dude, that was very
yeah.
like bizarre. Like that was a very bizarre time. So I watched that. Yeah, a lot of wrestling, man.
Dude, I got to tell you, I'm going to be pretty upset if Campy for our thumbnail doesn't have my face imposed on the Hulk ripping his shirt off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I feel like that has to be the thumbnail,
That's
right?
got to happen. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Either that or your face can be on uh Paul Bear.
I'm just as cool with that one. That dude was
with the urn,
the
you know.
strangest cat.
Oh, very bizarre. Yeah, it was, dude. I getting into wrestling would probably be like you could just let your freak flag fly when you're a
Yeah,
professional wrestler. Just throw stuff out there, see if it sticks.
yeah.
People dig some weird stuff, so you could just
Oh
be
yeah.
like, I remember Val Venus, very very weird. I remember the Brood. They were just a bunch of like gothic, and they would come out and turn the lights off and pour blood on people. So this is a little bit of a teaser of what the Fun Day Draft episodes are, kind of us just having a good time, and Justin's the ringleader there. So this is a
Yeah.
little bit of a tease. The Nature Boy Ric Flair, woo, exactly, very, very good, Ric Flair. All right, Justin, why don't we give some injury news and updates prior to the Fantasy Football Championship?
Yeah, so injury news and updates. All right, Jalen Hurts. Hurts said today himself that he's kind of considering himself day to day at this point. He is hopeful to play Week 17 against the Saints. Everything that we read before this past week kind of led us to believe that there's a decent chance that with only one game missed, he could come back for Week 17. But also, there's just as much of a chance that he may not be back for Week 17, but he'll definitely be back for the playoffs. At this point, not really a whole heck of a lot for them to play for. Seating wise, I mean, I know maybe a little bit, but not enough to risk your quarterback. So there is a chance that they might just, shelf him until the playoffs. Same with Lamar Jackson. After Week 16 win against the Falcons, head coach John Harbaugh stated that he is hopeful to have Jackson back for Week 17 against the Steelers. Some things to consider, though, is that while they are locked into a playoff spot already. I have heard and seen some reports and opinions that would suggest that they could sit Lamar for the rest of the season. But if you think about it, if the Bengals lose this week against the Bills, which is possible, the Bills are currently sitting at the number one seed. So it is very possible that the Bengals could lose to the Bills this week. And then the Ravens beat the Steelers, which is also very possible. Then Week 18's matchup between the Bengals and the Ravens would decide the division. So if Lamar is available and healthy enough, I kind of expect him to go ahead and come back and play this week since they do need it. Let's see, Tua. Tua was surprisingly put back into the concussion protocol again. This is the third time he's entered the concussion protocol this season. I didn't type this one up in the show notes, Coach, but I'm starting to be more concerned about Tua Tagovailoa as a person more so than I am as a player at this point. With this third concussion this season alone, I'm kind of starting to worry about them shelving him for the rest of the season. Do you think that that's even a remote possibility?
I think it should be. You remember who was the tight end for Jordan Reed? I think it was Jordan
Oh
Reed.
yeah, Jordan Reed for sure.
He
That's
was
a good
he
comparison.
he was phenomenal, but he just I started to get scared for him. Like I
Yeah,
was uncomfortable. It got to a point where I knew, I don't really I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neuroscientist or whatever the terminology is. That just shows you how much I am not it because
neurologist.
like neurologist.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry. But I know enough that it's terrible for you. And I remember just being so uncomfortable watching Jordan Reed play.
yeah,
Like it's so not worth it at that point. So I'm getting to a point where I'm gonna start being uncomfortable watching Tua continue to drag himself out there when he's doing we don't even know what the extent of the damage he is doing to himself. So I hope they consider it, but if they do, they're not in a situation where they can sit back, run the ball, and rely on defense like the San Francisco 49ers can. You
right.
know, they can't do that. They got
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill, they got Jalen Waddle. Their defense isn't very good. Like they need to score 30 points a game to produce, especially if you're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals,
Buffalo
in
Bills.
the AFC, the Buffalo Bills. Like you better be ready to put up 40 points in the playoffs if you want to be out there. And maybe, just maybe, this rookie coach has a grip on what exactly they are and what's going on with Tua. And maybe he'll say, we're just not there yet. We had a good year. These guys are all coming back, minus Mike Gesicki, and maybe they'll be in the market for Jimmy Garoppolo in the off season.
Yeah,
Because with the way Purdy's playing, I know he kind of didn't do very well last week, but they got Trey Lance coming back, and I don't think they necessarily need Jimmy Garoppolo. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady go out west next year. So they
yeah.
could possibly get him down there. But you go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's why I left it kind of blank after that sentence. I figured you'd have something to say about Tua as well, so I wanted to leave that on the floor.
I always
Uh,
got something to say, man.
Ryan Tannehill had an ankle injury. Initially, the report said that Tannehill may miss the rest of the 2022 season. But then all of a sudden, Malik Willis rolls out and drops that big L against the Texans, and now all of a sudden, Tanny's potentially ready to come back for Week 18 against the Jaguars, which could be the deciding game in the division. So, in other words, I read this as if it comes down to that game being for the division, then they don't want Malik Willis to be their quarterback. Tannehill will be playing Week 18 if the division is on the line against the Jaguars. If it's not, then they'll give Tannehill another week off and see if they may even make the playoffs. Let's see. Aaron Jones tweaked his injured ankle in Week 16. This is the same injured ankle that he tweaked in practice earlier in the week. They're saying that you can expect him to play, although there is a high likelihood of some limitations on his touches. Debo Samuel's ankle injury, originally set to return in Week 17. And here we are. Monitor his practice this week and determine whether or not he's going to actually play against the Raiders this week based off of the injury reports. Like I said, initially they said it would be this week, but you never really know until we get a few more days of practice under our belts. Tune in Sunday morning for the Blitz if they do the Blitz. Otherwise, at Toyless of Titles on Twitter or email us, and we'll send you back a response with who we think you should start. A lot easier if you just join the Patreon at $3 a month and ask us in the Patreon Discord chat
At any hour.
at any hour. Yep. Matt's pretty active on the Discord too, and he's in Australia, so definitely at any hour. Let's see. Tyler Lockett, already hearing that he may be back this week after missing just 1 week with the broken finger. This is also what we had reported on TGIF when we found out about the broken finger, that it would likely just be the 1 week missed. So if you have him, you can look forward to bringing him back, because that offense this week did not look the same without him. Christian Watson, hip injury. Head coach Matt LaFleur said Monday that Watson fortunately did miss any serious damage and is now being considered day to day. So there is a chance Christian Watson may be back to play this week. Those are the major injuries that I found. Just kind of surfing the web and seeing if there were any updates. Outside of that, there's some other smaller stuff, but nothing that really pertained to fantasy and nothing that I wanted to dig too deep into for this week.
Yeah, man, just surfing the web, man.
That's right.
That's it. That's what Justin's been doing, man. Trying to find those recipes for some slamming pizzas. And I see Lori in the chat. She seems like she proposed an alternative, and you weren't having it. She's Lori's team small pizzas.
Oh yeah.
Lori is team small pizzas. We can try lots of things. Justin is team. Everybody gets their own pizza. Leave me alone. This is what I want on my pizza. Don't touch it.
Yeah, so we like to let each other live and let live in this house. So she can have her small pizza. I'll let her have a small pan. She's more than welcome to make her own small pizza.
Lori, I see his face turning red as he's answering this. He's saying that right now. He's saying he's going to let you have the small pizzas, but it's very begrudgingly.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I can talk her into making the large pizza, and then like on the other half, I'll just have another half for myself, and then I'll have 1.5 large pizzas.
Lori, prosciutto, jalapeno, and onion on your small pizza. That's my recommendation. All right, games of the week. We got to recap it. We got to go. We're already like 40 minutes in, man. We spent more time talking about pizza and wrestling than we've spent talking about fantasy football. But quickly, games of the week. Last week you had Dolphins at Packers. It was 20-26, 6-point differential. I had Eagles at Cowboys, which usually I don't like picking the Cowboys. I think it's bad luck, but the Cowboys ended up winning. They put 40 points up against that Eagles defense, and that Eagles defense is legit. Dak spotted them, like a touchdown out the gate, and then he went 10 for 10. He was on fire. He tore that defense apart. 40-34, 6-point difference. So Justin, you are losing right now with 185 total points. I have 176, and I think we said if it was like 20-point difference, we'd stop it. So I think we got 2 more weeks. It's looking like this thing's going to be rolling into the playoffs. So it's because it's only 9 points. So it's fairly close. So what's your game of the week this week?
Yeah, because for these last couple of weeks, I'm playing the game. I'm not worried too much about actual games of the week. I just want to try to keep this close for the playoffs. I want to see this continue.
That's what I get for logging on first thing and picking the best matchup.
Yeah, because I absolutely would have chosen your matchup for sure. But but that's cool. I would appreciate. You have no idea how much I appreciate the fact that you have the ability to be at work in the mornings and get all this set up before you start your work day. It makes it so much easier for me when I log in to do my part of the notes. So you can have the top game of the week every week. That's fine. But I do want to comment about your Eagles and Cowboys game really quick. I'm sure you remember Clay Harbor. He used to be a tight end in the NFL. He came on the show. He talked tight ends with us. He used to play for the Eagles as well. So he's a bit of an Eagles fan, and I follow him on Twitter, and it is at ClayHarbs82. Clay, I absolutely love you, man, but you know that you kind of jinxed your team when they had that long touchdown to take the lead late in the fourth, and he had hit on Twitter. He said this Eagles team just has way too many weapons. They're just unstoppable. He didn't say anything bad about the Cowboys. I will give him credit there. But then the Cowboys come back, and the Cowboys show that they also have a ton of weapons. So what do the Eagles look like against the Cowboys when Jalen Hurts is in there? We don't know how much difference that's going to make, but that's going to be a hell of a playoff game to watch.
Yeah. I mean, they already scored 34 to 36 points. So I see you, Dennis, the newest member of Toilets Titles, working on draft content. D now, he's in the chat, and he's actually going to be on the mock next Thursday. So we're looking forward to it.
Nice.
I see Rich in here as well. But yeah, so the Eagles scored 34. So what does Jalen Hurts get them an extra 8 to like 42 points? I don't know. And Leighton Vander Esch didn't play. We're sitting him. Jonathan Hankins didn't play. So we have a few guys that are going to be coming back. So how much of a difference are they going to make? So, I mean, with Hurts, I think the Eagles are scoring between 32 and 38 anyway. And we both called it. We knew Gardner Minshew. I heard Gardner Minshew. I could be wrong, but I heard this, that he gave the eulogy to Mike Leach. So they were very close. He played under Mike Leach, and that was prior to this game.
Yeah.
So he had that on his mind. Then he's coming into Dallas playing Christmas Eve, showtime. That dude loves show. We knew he was going to ball out, and they do have a lot of weapons. They are absolutely loaded. I had this conversation with my son because my son, he roots for the Cowboys with me, and he gets frustrated when they're losing, and he's like, I don't like this team. And I was like, I don't like the Eagles either, but they're good.
Yeah.
Howie Roseman did an absolute phenomenal job developing that roster. They're loaded top to bottom. Like Dallas Goedert, ever since he came into the NFL, dude's just gets it done. Stud tight end. They got Devontae Smith. They got A.J. Brown. Miles Sanders can play. Kenneth Gainwell barely sees the field. He could play. Boston Scott can play. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's hurt, but he could play. Darius Slay, James Bradbury. They bring in Hassan Reddick. They're loaded. They're loaded. So it's going to be fun to watch. And there's a good chance we see the Eagles in the second round, because right now it looks like the Cowboys are going to play Tampa. There's a chance it's the Saints. There's a chance it's the Panthers, but I think it's Tampa. And I'm also worried about Tampa because even though they haven't looked good, it would be very Dallas to go into Tampa and make Tom Brady look like prime vintage Tom Brady. And I hope that's not the case. And I know you hope that's not the case. But give your game of the week this week, Justin.
Yep, right on. And Steve, I see your note down here. I'll consider something. We'll see if we can't figure out something.
Yeah, I like that idea.
At least for the Patreons. Maybe not open to all viewers.
Yeah, but they got to get it to us so we can put it onto the. You know what I mean? As long as they're in communication with us, we can get it on the dock. You can surely play game of the week with us.
Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. All right. My game of the week this week. Well, last week, I guess. Oh, you already went over last week's. Yeah.
Yes.
So this week, Colts at Giants, New Year's Day game. I mean, Christmas Day, that game at least kept me alive. I figure I'd go with the holiday again. You guys know how much I love holidays.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So it's well, that's not just it. There's a lot of New Year's games, but also these two teams have what I consider to be kind of underrated defenses. Their defenses can tighten up in the right spots. It's usually the offenses that let them down. So I feel like this is going to be a low-scoring game across the board, while I'm still going to be rooting for our boy Joe Clark and Joe Arachi. I'm going to be rooting for your Giants to win, because the Colts need to lose to get a better draft pick so they can finally get a quarterback. This funny, though, even while I was watching that Colts game and I was rooting for the Colts to lose, I was still getting mad every time there was a bad call against them, or I was still like getting upset whenever the Colts defensive back got hurt. And like I was like, it was so hard to root for your team to lose. Like, it's absolutely insane. But that's what I'm doing. I'm hoping the Colts lose, but I really hope it's still a close game for the purposes of this game of the week.
And this is a little bit of a tease to what I'm going to be saying later, but this might be Saquon Barkley's last game as a Giant in MetLife Stadium.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it's possible. And you got to think that's going to be on his mind. So that's a storyline for this game. I got Bills at Bengals. Like Monday Night Football, like this is clearly, I got the easy. Burrow is absolutely hot. The Bills need to get back on track. Even the Bills are winning, but they don't look like a surefire Super Bowl contender. And this game, they'll prove to the world if they want to put the league on notice, or at least the AFC on notice. You go into Cincinnati, you beat the brakes off the Bengals. All right, you kind of win by 6, 7 points. Dominate them, get to Burrow a lot. You'll put the league on notice. But if they keep this thing close, I think the Bengals are going to come away with it. So I'm hoping it's closer than that. I'm hoping it's like 2 or 3 points so I can continue to lead in the games of the week. I added a New Year's resolution thing here. I got to get to my dudes and duds. So let's quickly, Justin, I'm going to let you go through your New Year's resolutions real quick.
So I've been working on this degree for way too long. I keep putting it off. I keep making other things
What degree?
priority. My my 4-year college degree to get my teaching license essentially. So I've been doing it without a teaching license. There's a huge pay increase that comes with having the license, along with some other perks. So
Justin's like Jack Black in School of Rock.
yeah, essentially, yeah. I was a substitute teacher that didn't even deserve to be a substitute teacher, and now here I am.
I'm just kidding.
No, I agree with you. Anytime you can compare me to Jack Black, I'm
Yeah.
gonna take that as a
Great
compliment.
guy. Great guy.
So I really need to focus my priorities and kind of change my life around, especially since my kids are older now. It's not like they really need me to do a lot of stuff. My youngest is no longer even in sports, so I don't have to go to like the practices and the games and all that sort of stuff. So I have some time on my hands. I need to make sure I prioritize that properly and spend as much of it on getting this degree as possible so that I can hopefully get it a little earlier and in about a year or two have all the free time that I need. Also, I need to cut back a couple of leagues. I've cut way back from like 25 to down to like 12 this past season. I'd like to get that down into single digits. That's not going to be fun because now it's at that point where it's all my IDP leagues are gone. So now it's just about like friends or leagues I was keeping with certain friends for certain reasons and to maintain certain relationships. And I mean, even that's just going to have to go. So maybe even have to cut out some just because of the platform they're on. So I have one less platform I have to check each week.
Man, I like getting rid of like when I lose a league, I love deleting the app off my phone.
Yeah.
I love clearing. Like I don't like having like all the apps on my phone, and
Yeah.
might be a weird problem to have, but I have OCD, and that's one of the reasons why I come in the mornings. Like I'm clearing last week's doc already. Like if you're only looking at this week's doc, you go look at last week's doc. Like I clean everything up just because I like it clean, and I don't know, man. I'm a bizarre guy. I have my ways of doing things. But all right, my New Year's resolutions. One of mine is to I'm not going to allow the Cowboys. I'm going to try to not allow the Cowboys or my fantasy teams to affect my mood as much as they have in the past. I have no control over what the Cowboys do. After I make lineup decisions, after I do my draft, I have no control over what the players can do. So I need to find my zen when my teams play, especially when it's on Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve, because I give them way too much of a chance to ruin my holiday. And luckily, this holiday, I was able to be, pretty cool about it, man. Pretty cool about it. So I'm gonna try to continue that trend. I'm gonna work on that this offseason. Also, I'm gonna teach my son the ways of fantasy football. He's doing the playoff challenge, toilets and titles.
Nice.
If you haven't been listening to the whole episode, we're doing our playoff league again. It's $15. DM us on the Twitter. I'm at Coach Sheps. Let me know you want in. Send me your email address. I'll get you set up. It's on my fantasy league, and payment is through League Safe. So Emmett's going to do that. He's at a stage where he's asking so much questions. Like, it's Dad, who's the 5 best quarterbacks of all time? Dad, do you like this guy? Dad, do you like that coach? Like all these questions. So I'm going to get him going. And this is also going to be the first year he plays football. So we're going to transition him from soccer to football. So there's going to be a lot of me, teaching the young Padawan throughout this off season and throughout the summer. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I don't think this next one is necessarily a resolution, but if the Cowboys make it to the Super Bowl, I will run a half marathon. And if you know me, I struggle to run 2 or 3 miles. My brain just can't focus on just running for that long. Like I lose my mind. I want to pull my hair out. But if the Cowboys hold me to it, please, Justin, hold me to it. If the Cowboys make the Super Bowl, I will run a half marathon and I will document it. However, I don't care. I will be so ecstatic. I'll document it however you want me to. All right. So those are my New Year's resolutions, as well as
You know how I want you to document it? I want you to have one of those cameras that are strapped around your chest and then comes out in front of you. And then it's just like a selfie stick sticking out from you while you're running.
I'll do that if they win the Super Bowl.
That would be hilarious.
Deal?
Okay, cool. Yeah, sweet. And then
you got to find a way. Like, I don't know that equipment, so you got to help me find it. You know what I mean? And I'll
figure that out.
Yeah, but I will run a half marathon if they make it, and if they win it, I'll do it with that camera on, and I'll paint my face, blue.
I don't know. That's probably a bad idea. You get that paint get down in your eyes and stuff while you're running, and
Yeah, it's probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
all right,
you can wear a Cowboys shirt or jersey or something. Yeah.
maybe from Fanatics or Homage.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
We didn't talk about affiliates. Do you want to briefly, quickly talk about what got going on with our affiliates?
yeah, absolutely. So I don't have a banner set up for it, but we do need to do
You're
that.
good.
But for sure. So Nate, the great Nate Whalen, has been working in the backgrounds with myself and Campy to try to get as many affiliates up and going as possible. I do have that tab pulled up so I can take a look. Right now, we're currently sitting on fanatics.com and amazon.com. Those are definitely on the site. If you go to toiletsandtitles.com and click on one of those links that look like an advertisement. It's not just an advertisement, it is an affiliate. Fanatics.com, Amazon.com. You guys order from Amazon all the time. Everybody does. It's just the way that Bezos has set up our lives. It's so convenient. But now you can conveniently go through our website first and place that order, and then we get a kickback to help us out. Homage.com or homage.com. It's HOMAGE.com. It's set up a lot like fanatics.com. So between the two of them, you'll find the sports memorabilia and the sports, what's the word I'm looking for? Hats, jerseys, shirts that you want, hoodies that you want in your life. You can go there first, and we get a little kickback on that. There's like 12 more that's on the applied for list, and then a whole bunch more that's on the going to be applying for list. So we're going to have a huge amount of affiliates on the website real shortly.
Excellent. I'm sorry, I just was a little distracted. Clutch Russ from the head to head show just reached
Uh-huh.
out to me. He's never played in the playoff league. So he sent me his details. He had some questions about scoring.
Cool.
And I told him, man, just go on the site, check it out. And if that doesn't work, you can give me a call. If you're anybody who's playing and you don't understand the scoring, you could text me on Twitter, or rather DM me. I'll give you my number. We can chat. Yeah, it'd probably be
Right.
easier to break that stuff down over a phone conversation than through messaging. Sometimes it's just the way it goes. So I'm going to try to do dudes and duds faster than we've ever done dudes and duds before.
All right. Let's see
So
it.
I'm going to take one big breath here. Woosah, dudes and duds, week 17 fantasy championship edition. My dude, quarterback Dak Prescott at the Tennessee Titans. I had Dak as a dud last week, making him struggle against the tough Eagles defense, but he lit it up and finished the week quarterback 2 with 27 points. I'm going to ride this wave into the championship. I love his matchup against the Titans defense that has given up the third most points to opposing quarterbacks this season. Next, Aaron Rodgers versus the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, man, you heard it. Aaron Rodgers. This may be more of a hunch than an actual statistically driven prediction, but Rodgers performed horribly against the Vikings in week 1, and I believe he'll be hellbent on beating the Vikings and being at the forefront of that beatdown. The Vikings are the kings of the division, and Rodgers wants to play spoiler one last time. Next, running back Saquon Barkley versus the Indianapolis Colts. This may be Barkley's New York Giant swan song. There's zero doubt in my mind that will be something Saquon is aware of and he's thinking about. The Colts are allowing 26 points per week to opposing running backs, and Barkley will be putting on a show, possibly for one last time at MetLife Stadium. Next, Travis Etienne at the Houston Texans. Etienne has just gone through the ringer playing top 10 Russian defenses in each of his last 5 games. This week, that's top 10 defenses, 5 games in a row. That's terrible, especially for him, but also for fantasy managers. This week, he gets to face the 32nd ranked rushing defense. So it goes from 10 to 32nd ranked. What a huge gift. All right. It's a party gift, I guess, headed into the offseason or possibly the postseason for the Jaguars. I expect ETN to top 20 PPR points in this one. Next, CeeDee Lamb at the Tennessee Titans. Lamb is currently wide receiver 6. I kind of predicted that this offseason as far as our rankings went,
Yeah, you
just
did.
but just numbers. But in my discussions were different about Lamb. Where I put him in a spreadsheet wasn't how I was speaking of him. They didn't connect, but now they're starting to connect. I'm starting to believe what I'm writing, if that makes sense. I'm
Yeah, for
starting to
sure.
see it. I was a little hesitant. I was a little nervous. And man, 34 points. Christmas Eve, big time
What
players.
you're trying to say is that Chef Stradamus saw it happening,
Yeah.
and then now you're finally kind of seeing what Chef Stradamus was trying to tell you.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And that's another tease to the offseason, man. I'll have to go over all the Chef Stradamus stuff after this season. But 34 points, big time players make big time plays in big time games. And this was a monster game, man. And he also was on my duds list last week. So I owe him this one. Lan has proved to me that he is that dude, and he'll prove it yet again against an abysmal Titans passing defense. Mike Evans versus the Carolina Panthers. This one may be a bit risky, as Evans only totaled 5 PPR points last week, and Tom has not looked great. But the Panthers have been poor against the pass, and J.C. Horn just had surgery on his wrist Tuesday. I'm expecting Horn to be out, and I think Evans will get it done. I think Brady and the Bucs will try to get him involved in this one, get him a little confident going into the playoffs. Tyler Higbee at the LA Chargers. I started him last week in Too Legit. Higbee has seen a resurgence since Baker Mayfield took over at quarterback for the Rams. Higbee went 4 for 27 and a touchdown 2 weeks ago. Followed that up with 9 receptions, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns this past game. Mayfield is hot, Higbee is hot, and I'm banking on this connection in Week 17. My last dude of the week, Christian Watson versus Minnesota Vikings. He is my flex. I'm stacking Rodgers and Watson this week. Watson has cooled off after a stretch of monster weeks 10 through 14, but I expect one more major performance for fantasy managers against the 30th ranked Vikings pass defense. On to the duds. Quarterback Deshaun Watson at the Washington Commanders. Deshaun Watson is ranked QB 17 in points scored since returning in Week 13. He just doesn't seem to have it together, and I don't imagine he'll get it together against a strong Commanders defense. The stakes are too high for me to risk playing this dud. Geno Smith at the New York Jets. Geno has seen a steady decrease in points over the last 2 weeks, and his lowest performance in that time span came against the Chiefs in their 29th ranked pass defense. Smith is cooling off at the wrong time and is heading to New York to face a Jets team that will be doing everything in their power to make a run in the playoffs. Next, Josh Jacobs versus San Francisco 49ers. Jacobs has been leaned on heavily. Like, the Raiders are abusing this dude. He's gone over 300 carries for the first time in his career. I believe he's wearing down, and I also believe that the 49ers are going to continue to be dominant against the run. Najee Harris at the Baltimore Ravens. The last time Harris faced the Ravens, he ran 12 times for 33 yards. A rushing touchdown saved that performance. I don't expect that to happen. The Ravens defense, ever since adding Roquan, has been very stout, and I think they're going to be shutting down Najee Harris. DK Metcalf versus the New York Jets. Geno is a dud this week, and I'm stacking that selection with DK Metcalf. DK will be smothered in sauce, and I expect he'll finish the game with no more than 5 receptions and 50 yards. DeAndre Hopkins at the Atlanta Falcons. On paper, this looks like a great matchup for DeAndre Hopkins. The Falcons have allowed the 9th most points per game to opposing receivers this season. But if you look at this more closely, you'll see the Cardinals' quarterback situation is terrible. So that's the first thing. And the Falcons have not allowed opposing receivers to score more than 14 PPR points total. So, like, entire wide receiver cores haven't gone over 14 PPR points in 3 of the last 4 games. So I think Hopkins is a sit. Mark Andrews versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Andrews hasn't scored more than 8 points in any of his last 3 games. Even if Lamar comes back, I don't like his chances of seeing an increase in production this week. The Steelers are allowing only 10 points per game to opposing tight ends. I expect Andrews to stay below 10 points yet again. And then finally, my flex dud of the week, J.K. Dobbins versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dobbins came back from injury strong a few weeks ago, but in his last game, he was outproduced by backfield mate Gus Edwards. The Pittsburgh Steelers have only allowed 20 points per game to opposing running backs, and with the Ravens splits in that backfield, I don't like the chances of Dobbins being worth a start. Justin, slow your roll or you're all in.
Yeah, so one of the very, very, very few times I'll ever say slow your roll. I'm actually going to slow my roll on the Vikings. I almost always do you're all in. But I'm slowing my roll on the Vikings. They have not looked nearly as impressive as their schedule or as their standings would suggest. They are likely to get punched in the mouth again this week after losing 40-3 against the last real Super Bowl contender that they played, the Cowboys, 6 weeks ago. They have had a really nice schedule and have caught most of their good opponents at the right time to be able to slide into the win in those matchups. So they obviously have the division locked in right now. I'm not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs or anything silly or crazy like that, but I can easily see a first-round exit for the Vikings, depending on that first-round matchup, but most likely definitely out the second round. So that's something to consider in your T2T playoff challenge.
I loved how you said Cowboys and legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah.
That makes me feel like very confident. I asked my boy Jesse today because I'm a little biased and I'm a little pessimistic. I was like, "You're not biased. What are your thoughts?" And he kind of feels the same way. He thinks they can get hot, so that's making me feel pretty
Yeah.
confident.
Yeah, and I mean, like, so like against the Colts, obviously the Colts are a horrible team, and they put up 33-0 on them in the first half. So these Vikings are very, very hot and cold, and you can't be that way in the playoffs.
No.
So when you're talking about actual contenders, then yes, I definitely put the Cowboys up there, and they showed what they can do against an actual contender. This week they get another actual contender as well. So
Yep. All right, slow your roll on Cam Akers. All right. Just a few weeks ago, he's untouchable. And now he has two strong outings, and people are talking him up for next season. Listen, he topped 20 carries once this season, topped 100 yards in the ground once this season. It's just too unpredictable for me. I won't be drafting him. I'll be staying away from him.
And
Or
how often are the Rams going to be playing up that much
right.
to
They
be
got
able?
they got nothing to lose right now. They have absolutely nothing to lose.
Right.
Baker Mayfield is going in there like every game for him is the Super Bowl. And Cam Akers is kind of playing the same way. Like this isn't real ball. Like this is just kind of
Right.
they're just going out there with nothing to lose, and that's not what it is. So this time next week, Justin, I don't remember what my prediction was for this time next week. Last week, what was your prediction last week?
So last week I predicted the Titans, who were currently favored at that point by 7. I predicted that they were going to fall to the Texans, and I was right. The Texans did win that game outright, and that finally put the Texans in a position where they finally have more wins than they do ties on the season. So so I called that one. But this week's prediction though is going to be more about the divisional matchup. Um, so I can't wait for these divisional matchups in this next final round. There's going to be at least 3 divisions that will actually, you know what? This time next week. Okay, so I looked at it how we used to do this time next week, where it was more like, what are we going to be saying for next week? So after this week's games, I'm already going to be looking ahead to divisional regular season matchup week. So that final week, every team plays a divisional matchup or a divisional opponent, and there's going to be at least 3, maybe even 4 divisional titles that are on the line during the course of those games, and they're spread out throughout the day as well, just nicely enough for us to be able to really enjoy divisional football in the regular season.
Love it. And what I'm going to be saying this time next week is what a strange fantasy season. Like it was very bizarre. Like for me, having Kamara not be as consistent as I'm used to him being, having Derrick Henry not being as consistent as I'm used to him being, even guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin was kind of up and down. I was
Jonathan
expecting
Taylor had a lot of
Jonathan
down weeks.
Taylor, DeAndre Swift, very weird season for him. I was thinking J.K. Dobbins was going to come back.
Najee
You know,
Harris.
Christian McCaffrey ends up in San Francisco. Just a very strange season. It was fun, strange, but I'm ready for some NFL playoff football and just bring it on. Like you're loving that last week. For me, it's like let's go straight to the playoffs. I know I'll enjoy that last week as well, but I'm ready for the playoffs. But man, Justin, it has been a wonderful year with you doing this podcast, man. Year 3. We're wrapping up 2022. We're getting ready to go into 2023. I can't wait till next week to be recording our first episode of 2023. And I believe it's episode number 160. So
Yeah,
everybody that's what's Titles Podcast Network, we appreciate you. It's been a fun year working along with you. Everybody who's been listening, who's following, who's subscribed, who's commenting, who's liking, throwing us reviews, all the patrons, everybody. We're blessed to have you as a part of our title tribe. Justin, you got anything for the listener at home before we wrap this up, my friend?
nope. It's just been one hell of a year. Thank you very much to the viewers and the listeners. So we're doing this for you. And next season, next year, starting January 1st, we're going to kick off a whole new year, our 4th year of content. And I mean, after our 4th year, that's long enough for kids to graduate college, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we're putting it out there, man.
Yeah. And Justin's going to come in full next week because he's going to have eaten a whole big a pizza pie.
That's right.
So tune in for his recap. He's going to be giving us a review. All right. Stay tuned to the network. Head-to-heads coming next. Clutch Russ, Jared Gray, Nino Brown. We'll catch you all later on. Good luck this week. Win those championships.